it probably seems like a different space, and that's because it is. And that's what today's video is about. I moved. I moved to Toronto, which is cool. Moving is fucking hard. And if you're lucky, you don't move very often. And that was the case for me. I lived in my last place for 2 years. Circumstances changed and made the move. And luckily, all my friends love the city. We were within an hour of it before, and so it was easy. But it's hard. It was an easy decision. It's hard in practice. Obviously, there's a number of things. You forget how rooted you become in space, first of all. You forget how rooted you become in your habits, and you forget how much you rely on to make life easy. Especially, like, I have pets, so moving is like having children with less toys, I imagine. And yeah, I don't know. Tango's got a lot of toys, to be honest with you. Yeah, no, it's a pain. You forget how much stuff you have, and then you're like, look, fuck, I have so much stuff, and you want to get rid of it. And the reality is just like going from a suburban area into an urban area. It calls for a downsize, so a lot of things didn't quite make the cut, and a lot of things are still not making the cut, but they came with us anyways. And yeah, so I kind of just want to talk about like really what it's like to stop and move as a creative specifically. And I think it's really emblematic of how quick the shift happened that this piece was started at the last place and has yet to be worked on. Like, I haven't worked on it at all because the day that we signed the lease, it was go time. It was like a 2-week window. Enough about that, but the point is that your creative life is on hold. This painting I started in early to mid-June. I've only worked on it for 2 sessions, and normally a painting for me takes 4 to 5 sessions maybe, and they're all like 5 to 6 hours. Windows for that are going to change as well, and that's the other thing too. My routines are changing, and that's going to affect my creative life. But let's start with the pause first, because overall this shit cannot be worked on, especially any craft that requires like space and like workable space and items and knowing where things are, which I have no idea where anything is. And so I often just like try to avoid the making it work for things like this, and then I just wait until I'm ready, and I haven't been ready yet, and I'm hoping to actually work on it tomorrow. Scary. I don't know if I will, and if I don't, and that's the point of this video, is that, so like there's this pause, and a part of me feels that it's necessary as well. Like, a lot of what inspired this piece is that kind of stagnancy and that sense of like redundancy and mundanity. Just, I don't know, that sensation. It was actually really just inspired by Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd, and I love that song, and I've been learning how to play it poorly, and it's a very easy song to play if you're not playing the hard part. And then I moved, so it'll be really cool, I think, to figure out what that shift is going to be like. The piece is called We're Gonna Make It Out of Here, right? In some ways, like, there's still a lot of, those sentences, there's a lot of things in my life that I feel but that's a big one that is different, like just a complete venue change. So a part of it is like, yeah, we did make it out of here, and second of all, we're still there. just in a different fishbowl. But yeah, I don't know, I think this piece that is like behind me is really, really special in that way, just for my own like self-reflection and my own point of reference. But anyways, there's a pause, and like what this pause looks like is, it doesn't always look like what you think a pause would look like, where you're like literally not looking at it, you're not thinking about it, you're moved on completely. There's different ways, right? Like, I actually haven't thought about this piece, despite me rambling on about it for 5,000 minutes. I actually haven't really thought about this piece and what I'm going to do tomorrow. I actually thought of that today, where I was like, hey, I should probably figure out what I want to do tomorrow. Well, I usually pick one thing I'll do one thing, and then it's a snowball effect, right? You just kind of like, oh, while you're doing that, you're like, oh, you don't look cool with this, and that's like how I function. I haven't thought about it at all. What I have been doing a lot of is I've been doing a lot of writing, which makes sense because in terms of access, like I've had my computer, I've had my phone, those things have been relatively accessible, and like I work from home, so my laptop and my phone are fucking super accessible, and they were the day I moved in because I'm like, I gotta show up for work on Monday. Like that was relatively easy to maintain. Even like I haven't painted or drawn anything. My iPad's been dead for weeks. My sketchbooks are who fucking knows where. So I haven't done anything like that at all. But I've picked up an instrument. But I've done other creative things. I've cooked, you know, curated my space. I've done these other things, and that's creativity in its own right. But it's just that like that aspect of your creative life is maybe on pause, or there's this a shuffle where you're reprioritizing different things, because I think humans have this kind of natural inclination to be creative in whatever way that looks like. It's just like that kind of our ability to just like alchemize things and turn things into other things, and our desire to be actionable and dynamic and like to have the vitality that humans have. It's there, and it's going to show up in whatever way it's going to show up. If it can't show up the way it's used to showing up, it makes sense that it's going to come out in different areas. So that is one part. One part is that kind of like very real, like noticeable change in routine, noticeable change in like the way you think about your creative life. And like I feel like I haven't done anything, but I've read and I've done these other things, and I don't feel like, yeah, I'm itching to paint again, of course, but I don't feel like clogged. Like I don't feel like I don't have access to anything of it, or that I'm like pent up and I have this like, I need to create. I'm very lucky in the sense that I enjoy multiple creative outlets because I'm easily bored. Yeah, so I kind of just want to talk about like this emotional kind of change as well. So you move physically, you have this physical whatever, then you have this time aspect where, you know, the way that you spend time is different, and then you're gonna have like your emotional pie. It's gonna be different, and it's gonna go like differently based off of different things. So like, I don't know, a big part, like I have been trying to check in because I feel weird. I feel weird and I think that's just moving, and I think it's just kind of like regrounding yourself, kind of thinking about, I don't know, uncertainty. Uncertainty, you have these old kind of commitments that like, oh fuck, like I don't realize how like, I don't know, you are dealing with like the shock, and you're dealing with the excitement, and you're dealing with the possibilities and hope, and just the same, the grief and the loss. Luckily, like I have zero bandwidth. So I haven't been feeling too shitty about it, but I've been feeling weird. And I'm sure I just need to spend some time diving deeper into that, because I definitely do for a break. Reconnecting with space, and like if you read any of the stuff that I post, like in terms of my essays, it's a lot of it is space oriented, and I think a lot of that is just like, it's been very integral for me in my creative life to really root myself in space and place, and have that kind of like understanding the geography of being alive, like where am I? That's been huge for my creativity, and so it makes sense, and I think it's huge for many people that there's that kind of emotional whatever. And that brings me to what else I want to talk about, which is like space and place tether to you and your experience. It's where you experience like your existence, the way that the world is operating in your mind and your consciousness, and everything is happening here where you are. Of course it becomes a very deep and intimate thing, and your senses of home connect in that way, and routine, and these more familiar things, I guess, or like more surface level familiar things, we connect those things, but also these like deeper, more intimate experiences of being alive, where we're like, this is where it's actually taking place most of the time. It's important, and I think, you know, there's many ways that we do that. We have, again, that like just kind of experiential connection. Then we also have the connection of, you know, in the same vein, like memory. We have the same, you know, we remember things in these spaces. They hold that kind of setting for what you're thinking of. And they're emblematic of like just parts of your life, right? Especially living somewhere, because It's usually a minimum of a year that you live somewhere, and that's a long time. It's not a long time in the grand scheme of your entire life, but it's a long time in terms of the experience of it, and I can tell you that in positive and negative ways. But yeah, you just kind of have like whatever, you know how to operate, and I think because creativity is so expressive, a lot of it has to deal with that kind of self, and that self is, you know, reverberating off of the place, and the place is, you know, influencing your work, and your work is reflecting that. And now I have a half-finished painting that was made in one place and we'll finish in another. We'll see how that turns out. But yeah, there's just that, you know, that intimacy with the space, which I think is really cool. And though I'm feeling weird, like I said before, I think overall I'm excited. I fucking hate suburbia, dude. Like, I fucking hate suburbia. And just want to say, like, full disclosure, guys, everyone's always like, oh yeah, people in Toronto are mean. People in Toronto are mean. Never been my experience. Never. Okay? Let me tell you a story. I went to pick up something from Facebook Marketplace. Okay? It was big, but it was not heavy. And I was putting it, whatever. The guy who I bought it from was like, let me help you. And I was like, got it from here, sir. I go, whatever, try to put it in my car. Someone says, do you need a hand? No, I'm okay, thank you though. And a third person asked me if I needed help. That would never happen in suburbia. I remember this year, I can't even remember whose car it was stuck in the snow, and a serviceman walked right past and didn't give a fuck that we were stranded in the snow. And that happens in suburbia. That doesn't have to, you know, in the community, because we see people and we want to help them in more densely populated areas. Anyways, so just like, fuck that. Can I just say? People always say that the people in the city are mean. Look, I worked in customer service, and no one is worse than the people in Oakville and Burlington. Nothing's worse. I've worked in multiple cities. I've worked in like subcultures, and I'll tell you, waspy shit is happening in those communities. Waspy shit. Hamilton? People hate on Hamilton? Love Hamilton. They ain't like that either. Familiarize yourself with this space, because this is where I will be. A part of this is funny, and I've been trying really, really hard to document this time, because it feels like when you're entering a space, which I haven't in a while, like in this capacity, you're entering a space, you forget that feeling of newness. And of course, like, there's the risk of like taking things for granted and et cetera, et cetera. But I think also when visions fill out more and more and more, we lose that kind of initial like spaciousness. Not to keep harping on space, that spaciousness and the idea and the spaciousness of hope. And it's like what could be here? Like what could happen here? So, you know, wherever you are too, I hope you feel like you can look around, and even if you've been there for your whole life, even if you plan to be there for the rest of your life, think about what could be here. And I hope you're not moving right now. It's awful. I think actually, like, let me also just say, because I think I've barely talked about creativity, except I think, like, if I haven't made it more clear, I think creativity is just emblem. Like, I think the process of being creative is a microcosm to the wider experience of being alive. And I think that, like, genuinely, creativity ebbs and flows with the way our energy ebbs and flows, right? Like, you take care of yourself, you take care of your energy, and then your creativity is also nourished. So in case I don't mention creativity for the entire video, it is there. It's just in the root of it, not so much on the surface. What I will say is that it's okay to stop being creative. You're not going to lose the momentum when you come back. It's okay to not push yourself to create when you're in motion. It's okay to show up in a way that is accommodated to the motion. When I was in New York last year, I brought a notebook and markers, 6 markers, because I was not paying for a checked bag, so I had a backpack. I never draw like that anymore. And I did. I drew some swans from Central Park. When I was there and someone was playing Drake, like, guys, can I not escape this Canadian thing? Just let creativity show up the way that it ought to show up. And the way that it ought to show up is the way that it presents itself. Because it's already there and it's already that way. And of course, you know, things that you want to change, allow them to change, but also allow things to be so that you can make that change.